Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
The appearance of Lord Nrsimhadeva is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the topmost Vedic scripture. And his appearance is mentioned in many other Puranas also. His appearance is particularly described in detail in Sri Nrsimha Purana. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is first mentioned in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto, in a list of incarnation or avatars of Krishna. And the general reason for such descents of the Lord is also given there. Ete chang shakala rupam. What is that? Krishnastu Bhagavan Swami. Indrari vyakalam lokam hridayanti yuge yuge. That there are many expansions of the Lord, but Krishna is the original form. Kala Pumsa, Krishna's two Bhagavans. Indrari. Such forms appear in every age to alleviate the disturbances to Indra, to demigods headed by Indra. Now, in the case, so like this, there are so many different descents of the Lord, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, Vamana, who descend to alleviate disturbances caused by demons. Lord Nrsimhadeva specifically appeared to alleviate the disturbances caused by Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu had caused the great disturbance of driving all the demigods from the heavenly planets and usurping the throne of Lord Indra. And Sri Nrsimhadeva dealt with Hiranyakashipu by ripping his body to pieces and thus killing him. Problem finished. Now we see that shortly after the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadeva, the Lord again appeared for a similar reason. He appeared as Lord Vamanadeva. The same thing more or less had happened. That the great grandson of Hiranyakashipu, namely Bali Maharaj, had conquered the heavenly planets. And again, he had usurped the position of Indra. So Vamanadeva appeared and he rectified the situation. However, he did not kill Bali Maharaj. He removed him from the position of Indra. And superficially it appeared that he had cheated him. But soon thereafter, Vamanadeva awarded Bali Maharaj the overlordship of the Sutala planetary sphere, which was in many ways considered even better than that of the Svargaloka. And Bali Maharaj was promised that later on you can also take the position of Indra. And what is more, Vamanadeva himself took up service in an attitude of great affection towards Bali Maharaj. So for the same offense, he treated Hiranyakashipu with great anger. There was no court case, he simply finished him off. Execution, no court case. Whereas with Bali Maharaj, he played some joking pastimes. And far from killing him, Vamanadeva made Bali Maharaj's material and spiritual position practically unparalleled. So why is this? Why is he dealing with one person in one way and another person in the other way? They both committed the same offense. Was it that at the time of Hiranyakashipu, the Lord was simply feeling in a bad mood, and then when he appeared as Vamandev, he was in a better mood. Probably husbands and wives, they know that amongst each other, sometimes for no reason, the other will be in a good mood and the other, and the next day in a good mood. And there doesn't seem to be any reason for it, just it's like that. Do the Grihastas have this kind of experience? Anyone? You like to say, it's like that. I don't know, but I don't have a personal experience, but I can imagine it's like that. So is this Supreme Lord whimsical, that just sometimes he punishes someone for one thing and then on another occasion rewards someone practically for doing the same thing? Is he influenced by the three modes of material nature, that one day he's in the mode of ignorance and the other day he's a little bit happier, maybe in the mode of passion or something? These are not the reasons. The reasons for the Lord's differing behavior in these two incarnations is because of the different attitudes of Hiranyakashipu and Bali Maharaj. Both were intimately related with Prahlad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu as the father and Bali Maharaj as the grandson. Now, the difference in their attitude towards him was that Hiranyakashipu was against Prahlad Maharaj, and Vamandev, he was against Prahlad Maharaj's Vishnu Bhakti, and Bali Maharaj accepted the principles of Vishnu Bhakti taught by Bali Maharaj. Taught by Prahlad Maharaj. Now, Hiranyakashipu was very much against Prahlad Maharaj's commitment to Vishnu Bhakti. So much so that eventually he became so frustrated with Prahlad that he wanted to kill him, which is certainly a very extreme response. It's not unusual if a father gets upset with his son, and the father may sometimes even beat the son, but to want to kill him is an overreaction. But on principle, it could be in one perspective, it could be said that on principle, Hiranyakashipu really didn't do anything very wrong. He had a certain outlook on life, and as an affectionate father, he wanted to inculcate that in his son. It's natural that a father will want to train the son in the principles that the father himself is committed to, whatever those principles may be. Just like you see someone who's keeping a chicken shop, then they train their son how to cut the throat of the chicken. So some people, very few people, may think this is not very nice. But the father feels it is his duty to train his son as such. And my son, naturally he should help me in that. And later he can take over the business. So Hiranyakashipu thought in the same way, that I'm controlling the universe. So my son should also assist me with that. Prahlad was not interested in Prahlad was not interested in receiving such instruction. So this very much annoyed Hiranyakashipu. Even more, Hiranyakashipu was annoyed by Prahlad's firm faith in Lord Vishnu, who Hiranyakashipu considered Lord Vishnu as a family enemy. So this was the reason for Hiranyakashipu's anger against Prahlad, and it could be said that it wasn't wholly unjustified. We don't say like that, but someone might make such a case. Just like some crazy and offensive people in Tamil Nadu have made a theory that actually Ravana wasn't so bad, but Rama was the bad one. It is natural for a father to chastise the son. What is the fault there? The problem is that Hiranyakashipu did not understand the transcendental exalted position of Prahlad. In terms of social convention, Hiranyakashipu was certainly superior to Prahlad. But in terms of spiritual realization, Prahlad was much superior to Hiranyakashipu. So actually Hiranyakashipu had no right to chastise Prahlad. And instead of giving instruction to Prahlad, he would have done much better to have taken instruction from Prahlad. But thinking himself superior, he made the misjudgment of thinking Prahlad the object of his criticism and chastisement. And as a result of this, he incurred the extreme displeasure of Lord Nrsimhadeva. Whereas Bali Maharaj, he was by social convention, he was inferior to Prahlad. He was subordinate to Prahlad Maharaj. But Bali Maharaj didn't simply respect Prahlad Maharaj according to social formality. But Bali Maharaj understood the transcendental position of Prahlad Maharaj as a great devotee. And Bali Maharaj imbibed the devotion that Prahlad Maharaj conveyed to him. As a duty, being the king, superficially the king of the demons, Bali Maharaj attacked the devas and took over the position of the overlordship of the heavenly planets. Maybe there was some tinge of a reflection of material desire there. That is not for us to comment on. So Vamandev also as a duty removed Bali Maharaj from that position and rectified the situation. But he reciprocated with Bali Maharaj in a very pleasing manner, quite different to the manner with which he interacted with Hiranyakashipu. So there are many important lessons to be learned from considering the pastimes of the Lord. One particular lesson that I've been indicating in the course of this speech is one's attitude towards devotees. By criticism of devotees, one's spiritual life is spoiled. Even if one is practicing Krishna consciousness, if he criticizes devotees, then the result of chanting Hare Krishna, namely love of Krishna, will not fructify within the heart. On the other hand, if one is submissive to devotees and behaves with them properly, then by their grace, by the grace of such devotees, one can get the mercy of Krishna. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya prasada nagati prasopihi. You'd like to get the translation of that? And by the dissatisfaction of the Guru, then one has no hope in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness, whatever else he may do. So Hiranyakashipu failed to recognize Prahlad's exalted position as a Vaishnav and a Guru. As a result, he was totally vanquished. Bali Maharaj, even though he committed the same, what could be called a criminal offense of throwing out the demigods, nevertheless, he got the full mercy of the Supreme Lord because of his proper dealings with Prahlad Maharaj. It was not considered that, well, Hiranyakashipu, he is the father, so he has the right to chastise. In so many ways, Hiranyakashipu appeared superior to Prahlad, but because of his far inferior position in terms of bhakti, he was actually intrinsically inferior to Prahlad. So in our spiritual life, we should consider this. We should be very careful about criticizing devotees. This doesn't mean that one loses all power of discrimination. But if a devotee is sincerely and honestly practicing Krishna consciousness, then it is not proper to criticize him, especially by those who are in a spiritually less developed position. It is the duty of the Guru to find the fault in the disciple and correct it. But that is not the duty of everyone. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote a letter to a disciple who had the habit of criticizing other devotees. In that letter he stated that, he quoted from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that in Chaitanya Bhagavat it is stated that by criticizing devotees one goes to hell. He said that as having taken the position of my Guru, having taken the position of Guru, it is my duty to find the faults in others. But, he continued the letter, I do not know why you are so eager to bring upon yourself such an unpalatable task. So one should be very careful not to criticize sincerely practicing devotees. There may be problems in social dealings, even between devotees. But in general, devotees, they shouldn't make a big fuss about small things. And they should live together peacefully and not be too disturbed by the minor faults of others. If one thinks, especially if one is in a spiritually not so developed position and thinks that now I have the duty to criticize others, then he puts himself in a very dangerous condition. If there is any serious problem in dealings, then a Vaishnava may approach another Vaishnava very humbly and respectfully and describe what he perceives the problem to be. But if one thinks that materially or even spiritually one is more competent than a Vaishnava who is superior to one and engages in criticizing behind his back, this is certainly not proper Vaishnava behavior. It will not satisfy Krishna. It may satisfy that individual person's crooked propensity for fault finding, but that crooked propensity will stop his devotional development. And we see practically that paracharchaka, that is the word used in Chaitanya Bhagavat, one who gossips about others, that they lose, although they're very expert at finding the faults in others, they themselves have very little to contribute to the service of the Lord. They become unenthusiastic to serve the mission of the Lord. So we should avoid becoming Hiranyakashipus. We should rather follow in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj and follow the example of Dali Maharaj. In this way become purified. We get the mercy of the Vaishnavas, and in this way we'll become more and more enthusiastic in devotional service. Otherwise, to be known as a gossip, I don't know in Indian culture, but in Western culture it's like this for old women who have nothing to do. They have nothing to do, so they simply watch what everyone is doing, and they find fault even there's no fault, and they talk all day among themselves about it. So we have come to Krishna consciousness for elevation in consciousness. Maya is very expert in turning our attempt upside down. So instead of going up, we go down. Therefore, we have to understand the basic principles by which we can advance in Krishna consciousness, and understand the principles by which Krishna consciousness is spoiled, and act accordingly. This is one important instruction we can deduce from the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadeva. That his appearance was superficially or at least the formal reason for his appearance was to rectify the imbalance in the universe. But the internal reason was to please his devotee Prahlad. And in his appearance as a Vamana, he rectified a similar disturbance in the universe. But he did so to reciprocate with the devotion of Dali Maharaj and of Prahlad Maharaj, who was still present at that time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Nrsimhadeva Bhagavan ki Jai. So, I think we're over time now. We have to leave, is it?
We have just...
Can we take questions or not?
Yes, yes.
Alright, if there are any questions.
To Namakkal.
Very good name.
Hariya Miya, Hariya Miya. If they can have that. They wrote exam, the seminar. Like
Any questions?
Out of ignorance, if we commit any of these offense to devotees, how shall we rectify it?
How should we rectify an offense caused out of ignorance? Again, going to the teachings of Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, which I think you can understand I've been studying quite a lot recently. He said that actually there is no offense for a surrendered soul. If one is actually surrendered to the service of Krishna, then his attitude is inoffensive. Whereas, if one is not properly surrendered, then he's always in danger of making offense due to tendencies towards sense gratification. So the best advice is to become a fully surrendered devotee. As we are not, as most of us are not reaching that platform immediately, we should be very careful to avoid offenses. And rather we should cultivate the habit of serving devotees. So that even if by mistake we do something that displeases them, because of our overall attitude of submission and service, they very easily forgive it. Much depends on the attitude. Any other question? So we request all of you to take up Krishna consciousness more and more seriously, in which we can enter the profound ocean of remembrance of and service to the Lord and His devotees. It is so much better to discuss about the Lord and His devotees than to discuss about politicians, film stars, sports stars. Let us hear about, read about, and remember the pastimes of the Lord, and in this way become purified and happy. Janu Shubhadam Sukhadam Lavasaram. By hearing about the pastimes of the Lord in His various incarnations, one's life becomes auspicious and happy, even in this miserable material world. So that you can absorb your consciousness more and more in Krishna, we have brought for you an alternative to the newspaper. Devotees of Krishna are not very much concerned with the newspaper, but they very much like to study Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And they say, well, in the newspaper there's fresh news, whereas this is something which happened a long time ago. But just consider that the fresh news of today, the newspaper, is garbage tomorrow. After one day, the paper, they'll put that in the pile and give to the paper man who collects. And then maybe that will end up when on the stall on the side of the street someone is making pakoras and they put in so that very fresh news, just like if I tell you Saddam Hussein was caught. But if I tell you now, you'll think that, what's that? It's all old news. When he was caught, I heard they printed so many extra newspapers because they thought so many people will want to buy. But that same news that they were so anxious to read about, after a few days, it's torn up into little pieces and it's become a holder for pakoras from the street stall. Whereas this news from the spiritual world, although ancient, is always fresh. Even if we read Bhagavad Gita 1,000 times, we'll still find there's so much more fresh understanding of it. So those of you who don't have this Bhagavad Gita in their home, you should please immediately take one. What's the price?
150.
Yeah, tell me. So you might think, well, that's quite a lot of money. Even if we sold this to you for 150 crore rupees, it would not match the actual price of what is here. For 150 rupees you can get 30 cups of coffee. Better to have Bhagavad Gita. Actually it can save you money, because if you start following it, then you won't even drink coffee. So those of you who don't have Bhagavad Gita as it is, you should please come and take it. Come here. If you're already so fortunate as to have this in your home, then you should take the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which the pastimes of the Lord are described in great detail. We also have many other important books, such as, and I've also written some books such as this Ramayana, which is available in English. So those of you who don't have these books, you please come to the book table and take, and I can